Okay, so we are now going to add an x and a y axis, and this is done in the mobject or using or by the mobject, mathematical object or Manim object called axes, A-X-E-S. And I actually, this now makes me realize I want to share something with you. Let's say you're working on something, you want to know, well, clearly I was doing aioli recently. We want to look at axes. So the thing that we're going to be using is axes, A-X-E-S. So I'm just going to type in Manim axes. So I'm going to come here. This is what we have here. Okay, so what is this? This is sometimes called an API. Maybe not the best term for it, but the idea is it tells you what the class is. It tells you the instance variables, the parameters in the class. That's what all of these are, the parameters in the class. And then it tells you all of the different methods. So here are all of the different methods. Here are the methods. Here are the attributes, and here are the parameters that the constructor takes in. Okay, so this also right here gives example of code using the objects. Okay, so this is also very good. This is just a very good tool to have. If you come over here, this gives all of the sort of list of classes that we have here, and we can. So up here it says the bases are vgroup and coordinate system. That means it inherits from the classes vgroup and coordinate systems, and so we have coordinate system here. It's listed under coordinate system, and okay, so that's good information to use. Or that has good information to use. Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to, continue, or in this video, I want to put axes. Okay, so I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say AX is equal to axes. And now I'm going to put a whole bunch of the parameters. Okay, so I need an X range, so I want the axes to go from a certain X number to a certain X number. So I'm going to say the X range is equal to, actually, you know what? I'm just going to not do any of that for now because we don't have to. So I'm going to have this. And now I'm just going to do something very simple. Self.add AX. I'm going to run this and we're going to see what we get. Okay, so if we just have something like this, we run it. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tick marks plus an arrow in the X direction and the Y direction, 1, 2, 3 tick marks plus the arrowhead there. Okay, so let's say that I want the X range to go from -1 to 1, and I want the Y range, let's say I want the X range to go from -2 to 2 because it's longer there, and I want the Y range to go from -1 to 1. So I'm going to set the X range to be equal -2 to 2. And let's say I wanted to increment by 0.5. So I'm going to have 0.5 there. Comma, Y range is going to be -1 to 1. And let's say since it's, I'll increment by 0.25 for now. I might change that later. I think I probably will. And I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to run this, and we're going to see what we get. Okay, looks similar. So this would be 0.5, 1, 1.5, and then this right here would be 2, 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and then this is 1. Okay, but let's say, you know what? I actually don't like those arrows. So to not have the arrows, so if you come over here, you look at some of the parameters here. We used X range and Y range. The tips, whether or not to include the tips on both axes. So I'm going to say tips equals false. Now, one thing to note here is before, when we ran the code, we didn't have this, that, or that set. So what's going on? So come over here. This tells you what the default arguments are. So the default argument for X range, none. Default argument for Y range, none. Here are the default arguments for the X length and Y length. You can play around with that. And then finally, tips equals true, which is why it drew the coordinate system with the tips. So now I'm going to run it, and we get it without tips. Okay, let's say that's how we want it. Okay, so now let's say we want it to show the numbers. Like I want it to show 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2, and similarly up here. Well, that is going to be done by the axis config. And I'll say more about that in just a moment. But if I come back here, I'm going to say axis config. Okay, so this is going to be a dictionary. A dictionary in Python is a set of keys and values, and there can be, like at most, one value for each key. So it's going to be the following notation. So I'm going to say include numbers, colon, true. Okay, so now what this is going to do, so what this is going to do is, if we come back here, coordinate system, axes inherits from coordinate system. So now what's going to happen? So what is the x-axis, what is the axis config? Arguments passed to number line that influences both axes. So if you go to coordinate system, when the coordinate system is created, it uses two number lines. The x-axis is going to be something called the number line. The y-axis is going to be something called a number line. And if we come here to number line, we see all of these parameters that we have here. For example, if we look at okay, found it, include numbers false. So what happens is we're telling it include numbers is equal to true. So when the Manim classes that are going on, code that we don't write, code that's already written in Manim, it's going to see that include numbers is equal to true, and when it creates a number line here, it's going to pass include numbers equals true instead of include numbers. The default is include numbers equal true. We're saying, hey, we want you to include the numbers when you create the number line. That's what this is doing here. So now when I run this, there's going to be the numbers there. Now, if you've gotten to this point, so I don't know what's going to happen when I run this code. I actually hope there's going to be an error, but I don't think there's going to be. If you get to this point, there very well may be an error that I'm going to tell you how to fix, even if I don't have an error. So if run here, okay. So I didn't get the error. I had the error before, and then I fixed it, and then I tried to unfix it, and it didn't work. So one error that you might get here, it might be a whole long error, and at the bottom of it, it's going to say something like LaTeX failed to comply, or LaTeX, however you say it, failed to comply, but didn't produce a log file. Now, if that happens, you're going to have to do the following. You're going to save this. You're going to come back to Anaconda. You're going to close it. So for a minute, you're going to get to look at my horrible desktop. Oh, no, I guess not. Okay. Anaconda. I'm just going to go ahead and navigate to the right directory. I'm going to activate my environment here. And then I'm going to do pip install LaTeX. And it's going to install it. Now, another thing that might happen here is you might have to, so this, when I did it on my computer, this fixed the problem. One thing that you might have to do is you might have to go to the control panel and add this in your environment variable. I don't know. Okay, so that's what I did here. And then I'm going to deactivate the environment. Whoops. Oh, conda. I should use conda deactivate, but it still knew what I wanted. Okay, so that sort of closes the environment down, and now I want to restart it. Activate Manim 696. And again, you might have to search for LaTeX or MikTeX if it's Windows. Find the LaTeX executable file, and then whatever directory that's in, you want to put that in your path. Okay. So now I'm going to open Jupyter Notebook again. Okay, so now we have this. I'm just going to close this, close this. This is the sort of active one, so I'm going to open it up. I don't know what would have happened if we tried to do the other one. Probably would have worked, but I just didn't do it. Okay. So running this again for the first time since we restarted. So now I'm going to run this, and again, hopefully, if you didn't have an error, or if you did have an error, you won't have an error now when you run it. Okay, so this is what we get here. The last change that I want to tell you about, so I'm actually going to revert back to white, but I want to tell you how to change the stroke color, or change the color of this, and that's with stroke color. So stroke color, I'm going to say is blue. And so now when I run this, should change it to blue. Of course, official Aggie colors by, decided by Marcom, I think suggests this should be equal to white, or maybe one of the other official trim colors. Okay, so that's it for this video. We got the axes up. I'm going to mention some other minor things in the next video, and then in the video after that, I'll show you how to actually plot a curve.